Hello and welcome to the Premier League show where myself and Matt delve into a bit of football, a bit of Premier League. Football, yeah. Anyway, Matt, you're feeling quite cold today.
It's
I
really
gathered.
chilly. Yeah, it's about 3 degrees, 4 degrees outside. Not much warmer in here.
Is it? Is it that cold?
I think so.
Wow. Apparently it's
Uh,
7 on
yeah.
my phone. But
So I've
oh
got
well.
my mum knitted this.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah. Is it supposed to be like sticking out to the one side?
Not really. That's the only problem with it is that one side sticks out, the other one doesn't really. But
Yeah. Fair enough.
it's a quirk.
Yeah. Well, we've had. Would you say it was a boring weekend of fixtures or quite a fun weekend of fixtures? I think it was more
Uh,
fun than I expected.
it was fucking awesome for us.
It was. It was pretty good
Um,
for us.
I think it was generally quite boring actually. I think we had City Liverpool, which was a good game, but like one of
Didn't
them where
deliver on the excitement. It kind of.
yeah, quite often those big top table clashes, whatever, they don't deliver on the excitement. And then none of the Saturday games were that interesting. Maybe Newcastle.
Yeah, I think maybe more goals were scored than we expected.
Yeah, definitely.
But
There were a few. Yeah, there were a few odd results, unexpected results. Yeah, quite a lot of goals. And then like the Brentford Arsenal game, no goals randomly. The one game where you thought there probably would be. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it was all right. All
yeah,
right week
no, not
weekend.
not
Yeah.
bad, not bad. Should we should we delve into our predictions then and tear apart our worthless opinions and
Yeah.
amazing shouts, and then we'll move on to next week. Don't think
Well,
were there any amazing shouts?
it was more worthless opinions than good shouts this week.
Were there no
Um,
scorelines? You got the correct scoreline for Villa, didn't you?
no,
Oh.
I went 3-0 Villa for some reason. Stupid thing to do. Um,
uh,
yeah, we both predicted a fucking Villa clean sheet, which is so ridiculous
did
because
I?
Villa haven't had like a clean sheet in absolutely ages, and we played Spurs
I think
away.
I think I went from 3-1 to 2-1 to 2-0, right?
Yeah, you went 2-0 in the end. So yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what we were thinking there, but the one correct result scoreline, sorry, was Luton Palace for me. I got 2-1. Um, Other than that, there were none, no correct scores.
Okay.
And you got four results right, I got three results right, so even scores.
Crikey, yeah, not too good this
Not a
week.
good one. Not a good one.
It's not as bad as our previous. It's worse than our previous bad, isn't it? Bad week, because the previous bad week was like four
This
and five
is
points.
slightly better than our previous bad week.
Oh, is it? Okay, I'll
Yeah,
take that. So we both got 4 points each.
yeah,
Oh God, right, okay. Well,
yeah. Not a good one.
you take the rough with the smooth. That's how life works.
Yeah, there were quite difficult games to call. I think like Sheffield United Bournemouth, one of those where it could go either way. Everton game had the unique kind of element to it with um, the points deduction. Newcastle, Chelsea, two unpredictable teams at the moment because Newcastle got injuries. Chelsea, who knows what's going on with them. And then City, Liverpool, Spurs, Villa, some tricky games which could have gone either way. So
Do you know what, Matt? I think you should wear miscellaneous winter clothing more often in episodes because it seems to bring out the best in your hosting and
really,
presenting
maybe I'm
style.
just cold every
Yeah,
week.
well, if you're cold, right, then you've got to be moving about and being more expressive to warm yourself up. So
Maybe,
that's
yeah.
that's what's going on. Anyway, should we? Yeah, let's delve in. Game number one. We both went two
City,
one.
Liverpool.
City Liverpool. I think the game probably played out as we expected and as a lot of other people expected. It wasn't a goal fest. It wasn't necessarily boring, too boring either, because you did have that underlying narrative of it being like the two biggest teams in the country over the past few years facing off again. Liverpool looking like they're in a bit of a resurgence this year from the previous year, maintaining some momentum. Looked like they could form some kind of title challenge again, but I think, yeah, coming into this, they knew that ultimately City are a better and more well-oiled machine, and they kind of had to respect them. and pick their moments, which they did reasonably well. But you just want more really from this game, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like you say, I think it was fairly even as people expected. City were a little more dominant as you would expect because they are generally a better team. But it just missed the goals really.
Yeah,
Um, both teams were sort of, I wouldn't say playing conservatively, but they weren't going all out by any means. City were definitely carrying the game. They were definitely the protagonists of the game, trying to get the goal, but Liverpool defended pretty well, didn't concede too many great chances. And then Liverpool were quite disappointing going forward, really. I think what I was relying on for entertainment was I captained Salah in fantasy this week because I thought
yeah,
it was kind of between Salah and Haaland for me, really. And I thought Salah might get some space in behind if Liverpool can link up on the counter attack. They might get some chances, and that's where you're going to get the goals from in the game. But Liverpool just never really clicked going forward. And so, yeah, the game kind of suffered for that reason. Um, they scored a good goal, but they were Darwin Nunez, man. He just had a bit of a stink.
yeah. Well,
He
agent of
just,
chaos, isn't he? So one week he's all over the place, missing everything. The next week he's all over the place, making it happen. So
yeah, that's. I mean, his problem this week wasn't actually that he was missing chances because he didn't really get any. Liverpool were obviously pinned back by City as you'd expect to happen, but they needed. This was a game where they needed someone like maybe Gakpo up front from their current squad.
mm,
Someone who can link the ball because Nunez, while he's got that physical presence that you might want when you're playing on the counter attack to hold up the ball or get in behind, he was just misplacing all his passes and his first touch was off a lot of the time. And he just doesn't have that kind of creativity and silkiness in tight spaces that you maybe need when you are trying to operate on the counter attack. When you've got Salah and Jota running off you, you need someone who can take a neat first touch and get a pass off. But he was just taking too many touches,
yeah,
losing the ball, just really frustrating. So
yeah,
that kind of stifled Liverpool's attack quite a lot.
yeah. Well, I mean, if they're starting Salah and Jota, those two are already goal scorers. Really, they can assist and create, of course, but that's not their play style. That's not what they want to do when they get on the ball. So if you're going to put a third player in there, you need to put someone at least to be creative in there. And if they're going to be in the middle, you're probably quite right in saying it should be more so a Gakpo than say a Jota or a
Yeah,
Nunez, because a Nunez ultimately is a striker. He's a finisher. He's not the person you want setting up the chance. He's the one you want finishing it. And if you're not going to have that down the middle, then you've got to and you're going to start Nunez, then you've got to have someone on the wings offering that. Again, Gakpo can offer that off the left, but Salah, it's not really what he's going to do. So if you're going to start Salah and Nunez, I'd probably say have them similar to the way Villa do in some kind of top two, and then
mm,
add more creativity into your midfield. Because say you have Szoboszlai in a number 10 spot behind those two, he's someone that if you give him the opportunity, he can quite easily finish a chance, but at the same time offers a huge amount of creativity off both sides to then enable Nunez and Salah to make the runs they need to make to get the chances they need to make. But there you go. Play play out like it will, I suppose. Jurgen Klopp didn't think
yeah.
about that on the day.
I just,
Well, maybe
yeah,
he thought
I
about it
just
but
think
didn't
that,
fancy it. But yeah,
yeah, I think the setup was just a little bit wrong from the start. I think Nunez and Salah can work. It has worked quite well. Like they've created quite a few goals for each other so far this season. It's just usually they're a more dominant team and they can rely on having more possession
yeah,
to get Nunez them chances. But in the they were getting pinned back, and Nunez is just not necessarily the guy you want holding up. To be fair, that said, um, I think we you spoke about in the preview how if City are going to win the game, which we both predicted, um, it would be because they're dominating that midfield battle. And that was another reason Liverpool never really got a foothold in the game was because their midfield just lost the battle. Like
yeah,
their McAllister, Szoboszlai just never really got in the game.
yeah. I didn't really think they would, to be honest. I thought it would be
Yeah,
some kind of over the top counter-attacking goal. It wasn't in the end, but that's kind of what I thought Liverpool would end up having to
yeah,
essentially resort to. But I guess I don't know. Maybe they should have done that a bit more because that's typically the way you would go about beating City is play it a bit longer through the lines. Try not to get caught in any little traps that they set, um, and hope for the best. Really.
Yeah, I mean, I think Liverpool did actually. They played it quite well. I think it could have been better if they'd set up a little bit differently, but generally they didn't concede too many chances, which is basically, like
Yeah.
you say, City. You're basically just got to pray that you don't concede too much. Pray they don't put away their chances. They conceded, yeah, 1.3 xg, which is pretty good. Gives you a good chance in the game, and they did. They kind of got a goal out of nowhere to get them the draw. So their game plan did, in general, work out for them. And a point at City away when you don't even play that well is actually a really good result for them. So then we have Burnley West Ham.
Oh, yeah, I got
Um,
disappointed here. I've seen one major switch in Burnley, right? And that's that they're now scoring goals. One goal a game, mind you, but they're scoring them.
it
So
was a penalty as well.
yeah, but they're scoring goals. So I'm now no longer going to predict Burnley to not score every week because that's what
Okay,
I've been doing
fair enough.
essentially.
Yeah.
um, yeah, West Ham let us down. We thought they were going to be the big winners this weekend.
Well, I
Unfortunately,
went 1-1 this game.
oh, did you? Oh, well,
Yeah, I
I thought they
think
were going to be the big winners at least. I went for 3-0 on West Ham's
yeah.
side.
I mean, you got the
Um,
point though. To be fair,
I
because
mean, yeah, when it comes
I
to the
went for
game, I
draw.
got the point, but I think you were more correct in your sort of judgment of the game and how it's going to go.
Yeah, I mean, West Ham won it really late on, didn't they? From
Yeah, um,
set piece. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, I thought they'd let them have the ball, but I just thought they'd be far more effective on the counter. Does this potentially say more about Jared Bowen's importance to the team than anything else?
yeah, that's the thing.
Potentially.
Potentially, yeah. But then I did. I was watching the highlights, and something we probably both overlooked is that West Ham's away form is shocking. Um, they've won like 2 of the last 10, something like that.
Yeah.
Way. So I didn't even know that. I didn't really factor it in. I just seen that stat after the game. Um, so yeah, maybe it was a little bit more predictable than we thought that West Ham wouldn't blow Burnley away. I think
I
yeah, I was going off my prediction was going off Bowen's absence basically.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I just thought at least with it being Burnley and with them not scoring goals, um, and with them being almost the sort of perfect side for West Ham to play for their style, not only to perfectly counter the opposition's possession-based football, but then on top of that also have the depth and quality to just outshine them on an individual basis. Anyway, I thought it
yeah,
was like the perfect recipe to get a nice, comfortable uh, victory, essentially. But maybe we would have seen it happen a little more smoothly if Jared Bowen was on the pitch. Who knows?
I mean they've
But
definitely got a lot more threat when he's in there, isn't they? Like
yeah,
their squad does lack depth in certain areas, and I think up front is definitely one of them. Because Antonio's injured as well. Even if Antonio wasn't injured, he's not exactly a reliable source of goals. Um, you look at their squad on paper and you think without Bowen and outside of Bowen and probably set pieces because they're always a danger from set pieces.
yeah,
It does look weak in terms of attacking potential. So
yeah. Although they have scored quite a few goals so far this year, haven't they? I think they're up there in terms of the league.
don't know.
But yeah, Jared Bowen, he provides not only that kind of stability from receiving the ball in possession and being able to manipulate it and play a possession-based kind of football, which West Ham don't generally do. But when you are moving the ball up the pitch and counter-attacks a lot, you do still need players who are comfortable at receiving it at pace in congested areas on those occasions where it happens. And Jared Bowen does provide that, so he probably adds, I don't, 10, 20, 30% improved output from the good work that West Ham typically do when he can receive the ball high up the pitch. Because, if you get the kind of output from him in any other side that's in like top 5, top 6 he's viewed as a completely different level player.
Mm,
He's viewed as one of the best players in the league probably. Well,
wow.
let's move on to the next switch because we are taking far too long, as per
Okay.
usual.
Luton Palace.
Luton Palace. Oh, I thought we were going to get a nice Palace win here. That's what the game
Yeah.
suggested would happen. You just had the unfortunate crowd and sort of atmosphere at Kenilworth Road that just, I don't
Yeah,
know,
it's kind of an interesting game.
managed to
Um,
take Luton Town to victory again.
yeah, based on the momentum, Luton kind of had the majority of it in the game. I guess they just they don't have the quality of player creatively that Palace do to
Yeah,
turn that momentum into anything particularly useful.
couldn't necessarily
Um,
control the game.
yeah, Palace definitely created more and controlled the ball, but I think Eze went off early, maybe
Did it?
with an injury. Oh, he went off at half time with an injury.
Yeah,
Also,
I remember
Decore went off
the
for them, and
it was,
Decore is a really important player for them.
yeah.
Um,
I don't what yeah. This is what I was thinking earlier about Crystal Palace. Is where is the issue? Because the defense is strong. Maybe the fullbacks
yeah,
aren't top quality. You've got good enough wingers. I mean, just look at what Elise did. You've got decent enough striking quality in terms of Edouard's your starter. He's got good technical ability, good finishing
yeah,
ability,
good player. Yeah,
like physical. And then you've got Mateta, who, he might not be the most technical or the best finisher ever, but he's a physical monster, and he causes a lot of problems. So you've got options there. You've got solid defence already, as we mentioned. You've got good wingers. It has to be the midfield, surely. And the thing is, Doucouré, he's a good DM. He has high output, but I just don't think he's a controller of play. And then when you
no,
look at
he needs.
those two other eight spots, you either bring Eze down into them in order to become more of an attacking midfielder rather than a winger. I mean, I don't know who you put there.
No, I suppose that could be a bit of a problem issue. Like you say, Decore is a really good player in terms of protecting the back four, and that's probably why the defense is so strong. But then they played Lerma there, who's kind of that kind of dynamic box to box kind of player. Again, not someone who will control the ball and dictate the play necessarily.
Yeah,
Um,
I just don't think he's necessarily good enough.
no,
Uh,
they're just one of
yeah,
those teams, aren't they, where they're kind of settled, but they're just missing the quality in a few key areas. I mean,
yeah,
they're literally bang in the middle of the league. That's probably where they'll finish. That's where they've been finishing consistently for the last few years. They're just kind of playing at their level, really. And then I suppose when they get injuries, it doesn't help because you look at their forward line and you think when they're all fit, um, there's potential for that to be a really productive forward line. But then they have injuries and they're just kind of middle of the road in every aspect, really.
yeah. They bought this Mateus Franca guy in, 19-year-old Brazilian. He, I mean, I can only assume that he must be talented enough that he could probably start getting some minutes in this side. If you're playing Eze as a 10, Elise as your right wing, Schlupp as your left wing, surely you think at some point you give him a chance over Schlupp. If Eze's now out, you can put him in at 10. So you're
Yeah,
just looking at that and thinking, well, with Edouard, Eze and Elise, you're looking at the start of a great attack, and then you've just got Jeffrey Schlupp sort of wedged in there on the corner. Then you look at Decore, and it's the start of a decent midfield, but you need someone sort of good on the ball, who can control a game next to him. But then you've just got Lerma, and it doesn't really inspire much confidence. Generally, Crystal Palace, they played well. You'd expect them to be the better side. Um, Luton, yeah, again at home, managing to come away with some points.
yeah.
It's
I think
quite
it's just one of them
surprising.
where the game was fairly even, really, and Luton just had that bit of imperative being the home side, and they put their chances away. I think Palace, yeah, it's one of those where you look at the stats and you think, oh, they should have won the game. I feel like maybe it was one of them where they kind of looked like they never actually were going to create anything.
Yeah,
Whereas Luton have that kind of they had that imperative to go and win the game, which maybe Palace didn't. I don't know. But yeah, I got the correct result on that one somehow.
Right, next game, Newcastle Chelsea. Uh,
Yep.
I was expecting a draw on this one. You thought a Chelsea win.
Yep.
Um, Turns out Newcastle have less injuries than we thought, and they're back to the best.
Yeah, they had a
So
few.
yeah,
Yeah, they had a few players back. Still pretty thin. They played a
yeah,
17-year-old in midfield, and their bench is weak, but their starting 11 is actually good because they had Isak back, um, and they had Almiron back, so they had a fairly strong starting 11. Yeah, I watched the first half of the game. It was fairly even. Um, Newcastle definitely on the front foot, but Chelsea had some chances on the counter. Chelsea didn't really have control of the game, which you maybe would have expected considering their style of play and how they like to keep possession of the ball and stuff. But then I didn't watch the second half, which is when it all fell apart. I don't even know what happened. Um,
I think the strength and intensity of Newcastle's attack just shone through. I think it has
yeah,
done a number of times this season, especially at Newcastle. What's that? St James's Park. Sorry.
yeah,
There, there's something about that stadium and the intensity with which they play when it's all coming at you. It just feels like a whole another world of pain, really. And
yeah. I
Chelsea
mean,
Chelsea found that out.
Pochettino in his post match was pretty brutal on the players and just said that they were second best in all their challenges, and they just didn't have the physical
Physical.
intensity, um, or mentality. They were kind of losing tackles, losing second balls and stuff. And it was just that intensity of Newcastle that won him, I think.
Yeah, no, I
Um,
think that's fair
so
enough.
yeah, 0 points each. We both got that one pretty badly wrong.
Yeah, Sterling scored a great free kick though.
He did, and Reece James got sent off to get me -3 points. The prick.
Didn't know Sterling had that in him, to be honest. But there you go.
No, me neither. I watched it. I was like, James was standing over it. I was thinking, James is going to take this short. And then Sterling just buried it, just absolutely nailed it with his laces. It was good.
That was a side
Good free
foot.
kick.
It was a side
Yeah, it
foot
was. It was one of those where it was like side
knuckleball
foot, but
thing.
no spin. It was like,
Yeah, dip
don't
on
know,
it. It's crazy.
like a David Luiz.
Yeah. All right. So unfortunately,
Forest
yeah, no
Brighton.
points there. Forest Brighton.
No.
What an annoying game for just everyone because they've gone and shown it is possible to win at Forest. So that annoys me.
Yeah,
Um,
that is a bit annoying after our shit result there.
but they've done it while also kind of getting outplayed by Forest,
Yeah.
which we didn't let happen at all. And then
No.
they've also done it with less shots than we had and less XG than we had and a red card. So it makes football seem like a very strange game. You go from one week, someone comes to Forest, they dominate them, um, they don't look like conceding at all, and they lose 2-0. And then the next week, a team comes, lets them play however they want to play, almost completely falls apart, and still manages to win. So it's a strange game.
Yeah, a bit of a bizarre one. Yeah, yeah. Forest had way more in terms of shots, beat them on XG fairly comfortably. Brighton didn't even dominate possession. The one thing you can say for Brighton, even when they've had this kind of string of bad results, is that they've stuck to their principles
Yeah.
and hold of the ball really well and still created chances quite well. They just maybe had problems with defending and maybe finishing, but Brighton didn't even keep much more of the ball than Forest, which is really surprising.
Hmm. Yeah. It was just such a strange match to watch. Like, I don't even know what to say. It was just weird. I
Yeah,
don't. Morgan
could
Gibbs
it have
White
been?
had a
I
great
mean,
game, but other than that, like João Pedro is just weird. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, two
Like,
goals out of nowhere. Just like,
not even that. Just he seems so like confident and sort of composed and comfortable in himself, but then he doesn't really do anything to show why. Do you know what I mean? Most of the time, and then he'll just pop up and score a couple goals, and you're like, well, okay, let's see more of it. And then he'll just keep walking around like he's Neymar or something, and it's like, show
yeah,
me
he's
something to back this up. Like, why do you have
it
so
is
much
weird because
confidence?
he's like scored a fair few goals considering how many minutes he's had because he's been like heavily rotated, barely
Mm.
started 2 or 3 games. But he's got quite a few goals. And so it's like, is he just a poacher? But he's obviously not. That's not why they signed him. It's almost like, I mean, he did have a good goal record at, was it Watford?
Yeah, well, he wasn't didn't necessarily have the best goal record at Watford, but it was decent, and he was known for
Yeah,
often playing out on the wing and in a number
yeah.
10
That's the thing.
spot.
You think he's a kind of a creative player, but he's just been getting goals with not very many minutes. But then when he's not getting goals, he looks kind of rubbish, which is potentially why he's not been playing, which is just confusing.
Yeah, it's
Um,
I want to see him do well, but I'm yet to figure out what kind of player he is exactly and what he offers. I feel like he should go under some kind of Joe Linton style transformation and become
maybe,
like
yeah,
a
maybe.
solid number eight or a hard-working winger off one side.
Yeah, it makes you wonder why they signed him because Brighton are usually a team which are spot on with their signings, and they sign a player with very specific attributes backed up by like loads and loads of data. So it's kind of weird to see them sign a player who it looks like hasn't really got a place in the system just yet. Um,
I think they probably had the idea to use him at striker, but it was always going to be more of a two striker system alongside a Ferguson perhaps, where he would be kind of like Diaby in the Villa system, a bit more
yeah,
creative, allowed a bit more
yeah, that's the
freedom.
kind of player I imagine him being, really.
Yeah, and I think he's
Um,
still got the technical attributes and the profile to become that player. It's just things don't quite add up at the moment with him.
no, so yeah, weird game, hard one to judge, really.
Is that a
The
point
one
for
you was
me?
missing for Forest, which could be a factor in them not scoring many goals.
Yeah, they're looking
Weird to
better
see
and
them.
better in Forest, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just they're a weird team as well. Yeah, weird game. Anyway, um,
They're the West Ham
Sheffield United,
wannabes.
Bournemouth.
Um, yes. What were the points that were gained or lost in that previous
We
one?
you predicted a Brighton win. You went 2-1.
Yeah.
I went 1-1, so I got nothing on that one.
Okay. And then yes, Bournemouth 3-1 Sheffield United. I mean, kind of what I predicted to be honest. I just thought Bournemouth were much better and they'll probably come out clear winners. Um, they scored more than I expected, and I didn't expect Sheffield United to score. But yeah, I don't think there's too much to be said on this one. Brighton probably better than a lot of people give them credit for. Not Brighton, Bournemouth. Sorry, better than a lot of people give them credit for.
Yeah, it seemed to be the game where it kind of just came together for them. Um, I think their performances had been suggesting that they've got this in them. They've got a kind of decent system that allows them to create chances and get goals. It's just never quite come together. But this was a game where it seemed to just come together. They created a shitload of chances, scored 3 goals. Um, I went 0-0. I think I just expected Sheffield United to be stronger, and Bournemouth, while they had kind of looked good in their style of play, they had just struggled to score goals, um, and had struggled for it to all come together. But it just seemed to happen for them finally.
Yeah, I mean it started off with that game against Newcastle where we finally
Yeah,
started
the kind
to
of
see
signs were
them
there.
put together a performance against a solid side where they dictated the play. They decided how the game was going to go, who was going to be on top. They decided the pace of the game, the tempo, um, and they just set the tone. And I think they again tried to do similar things here. You probably expected them to keep more of the ball, but I think if you do that against Sheffield United, you essentially say you're coming here to break down a low block, and games like that are
Yeah,
always going to be boring. And when you're a team that's down the bottom end of the league anyway, and you're trying to impose a way of playing and a more progressive style on the league you're in, you don't necessarily want to be jumping in too gung ho with a load of confidence and saying we're going to break everyone down, because it takes time to become good at breaking teams down. It takes time to develop the passing sort of sequences and the patterns of play that enable you to break down solid fixed defences. And so I think it was probably a good thing for Bournemouth not to be completely and totally dominant in this one, at
Yeah,
least from a possession and control perspective, because allowing or giving Sheffield United the enticement to come out and play is probably what enabled Bournemouth to really put together the attacking moves that they did and score the goals that they did. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more of Bournemouth against some more interesting teams. Really.
yeah, they're an interesting team. They look like they could be about to kind of things to click a little bit and get some better results. Um,
Yeah, I want to
Brentford
see.
Arsenal.
Oh, never mind.
That's
I was going to say I want to see like Traore and Cliver and Dango Atara just put together some like silky attacking, counter-attacking moves
Yeah,
and
they've got
just
some flair in there, definitely,
start to
haven't they?
scare people a little bit of like, oh shit,
Yeah.
now there's another team we've got to watch out for. Um,
Well, we got them next, so let's
yeah.
hope they can chill out for 1 week.
No, I want them to give us a challenge and then for us to win anyway. Surely that's the because if you think
Yeah,
about it,
but
if we'd have gone to Tottenham this weekend, the weekend just gone, and like not to jump ahead of ourselves in the running order here, but like if we had just demolished them, for example, everyone would have gone, well, that's not the real Tottenham, right?
Spurs, yeah,
But because we played Tottenham and they played the way they did, and we still managed to come out on top, it's like, well, you played what Tottenham are, and they did pretty much what Tottenham would have done. What they would have gained from having a Madison and Romero and Van der Ven would have probably only been a small gain in terms of at least they're what they were capable of creating from an attacking point of view. Like they created a
mm,
lot because our system allowed them a lot of space in behind. And I don't think whether it was Madison or whether it was Kulusevski or Richarlison, Brennan Johnson or Son is going to change how many offsides they had and how they tried to exploit us in that game. So in that sense, I'm basically saying I'd rather have the challenge and defeat it and not necessarily look amazing doing it, just to show that we are at the level where we can compete there. Whereas if we go into a game and we receive barely any challenge, whether that be because the opponents didn't show up or not, it's irrelevant. But just for it to happen and for us to overcome it, I think shows more.
I do agree. I agree when it comes to Tottenham, but that game was mental and very high intensity. We've got Europe in the week. We've then got Man City and Arsenal, so I'm happy for Bournemouth to be a piss easy walk in the park. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, no, actually that makes sense. You've yeah, fair enough. With it, yeah, in
um,
context, yeah, maybe not, maybe not.
yeah, I think you want the odd easy game here and there.
All right,
Um,
and talking of definitely not an easy game, Arsenal versus Brentford. I mean, Brentford put up a good fight, a better fight than I expected, to be honest. I just expected more goals. I think that's
yeah,
all really.
I think it generally went how we predicted. So it was ended 1-0 Arsenal. I went 2-1 Arsenal. You went 2-2.
Yeah,
So we both thought it would be tight and it would be marginal. Who won the game? I suppose Arsenal have got a really good defense this year, and um, they've just got the better players in those tight games. They're the one that's going to come out away just because with the win because they've just got better quality.
yeah.
But yeah,
Just gonna point out for Brentford this year, every traditional top six side they've played, um, they've either beat them on XG or barely lost out to them on XG. Now, of course, they've still lost some of those games, and XG isn't everything, but just the underlying numbers, and I mean even the balance of results suggests that Brentford are comfortable playing at that level against those teams. I think it's probably just comes down to a lack of quality that means that they don't consistently put results on the table with those performances.
yeah, their play style suits those kind of games, doesn't it? And they've definitely got the kind of tactical setup to compete in those games, like you say, and they have got the quality as well. Like in terms of their centre backs, which is a crucial area for them, they've got
Mm.
really good players actually, and then they've got Mbuemo up front, who's a quality player. Um, yeah, it's impressive. They're an impressive team. I think the problem is, like you say, the one problem is that they're not matching the quality of those top six sides. And so in those tight games, even when they match a team or beat a team on XG, sometimes if they're playing, top half team, chances are top half team has maybe got a little bit more quality in key areas.
Yeah,
Um, so I wouldn't. It's harsh to call them one-dimensional, but I think they do struggle in, well, not necessarily struggle, but sometimes they look a little bit lost in games where the other team kind of lets them have the ball when they're not playing on the counter attack. Maybe those kind of games just don't suit their setup quite as well,
yeah,
which makes them inconsistent. Like they they get the odd result against a top six side, and they get average results against teams around them in the league, and it's just kind of like they've got that inconsistency about them where they'll occasionally pick up a really great result, but then sometimes they'll like drop points to Sheffield United or something like that.
yeah. It's interesting because they came up as a more of a possession-based attacking side,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
to see them switch so effectively to this, which it's not even necessarily always a defensive counter-attacking side, is it? Like it's
No, you wouldn't call it that. It's like it's got different differences stylistically to like West Ham or Everton or something like that. Like you wouldn't call them a kind of defensive team, even really. They're quite hard to pin down stylistically. They defend their own box really well, but then they're very fluid on the counter attack. They don't necessarily hoof the ball forward with long balls. They run the channels well. They get nice interactions between the front two and little 1-2s
yeah,
and stuff like that. Like they can be quite creative and exciting to watch. Um,
just not good
yeah,
with the
they're an
deep
interesting
block in
team.
front of them, apparently.
No, I mean it is a struggle. Like it kind of comes down to that quality. I think every team in the league struggles to break down a good deep block. Like even Man City,
Yeah,
um, you need those like top quality players in creative areas to break down a well drilled defensive unit.
and
So they
even
just
a
lack
bit of
that.
luck on the day as well sometimes.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely. Yeah,
you can watch City put up big numbers against teams and barely threaten, so to speak.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
we'll watch them get chance after chance after chance, but each one will be blocked or will be an awkward angle here, awkward angle there, number of players in front of them, etc.,
yeah,
etc. Are there any of them
yeah,
really chances? Well, kind of technically no. So it's when you are breaking teams down like that, it really changes the dynamic of the game.
yeah,
Um, but to go on, you got a point there. I got none. Manchester United 3-0 Everton.
yeah. Bit of a weird one. Got this one a bit wrong, didn't we?
Yeah, I mean Everton. I think is that the most shots of any team in the league this year. It's got to be up there in one game. I imagine City have probably put up close to that at the Etihad at some point.
Oh my god, yeah, I didn't even notice.
So to put up that many shots consistently throughout the match, share the possession so equally, and not score after everything
Yeah,
that's happened with Everton with the 10-point deduction. What you can say what you want about that and whether they deserve it or not, but to do all of that and not score
it's
is just a
shocking, isn't
bit,
it?
it's just a bit of a travesty,
Yeah,
isn't
yeah.
it?
They did miss some really good chances. They had a couple of goal like 6 yard box scraps where everyone's just flinging their legs at the ball and it just doesn't go in somehow. Um,
It's mental.
yeah, how do they not score? I mean, it's just, and also how have Man United got away with it again? It seems like this happens every week where they just don't play very well, but they just come away with a result. How does this keep
Yeah,
happening?
Anthony Martial somehow scoring a goal. Rashford gets
I
himself a
know.
penalty. He's not been able to buy himself a goal as of yet this season. And then Garnacho with one of the best bicycle kicks of all time. Like, what on
Yeah,
earth?
random.
Just, what else do you even say about that game?
I
Like,
know. What can you say? It's just one of them. It's like, what the
man,
fuck happened?
yeah, United, they need to get what's coming to them. They
They do.
deserve another like big 7-0 loss at Anfield or something. They need it
Yeah,
to.
they've got
Oh,
Newcastle away in the next Premier League game, so
oh
that could be
please
it.
lose like 7-0. Actually, no. At the same time, I don't want them to because then Newcastle are chasing us
No, I
with
think
a
a
seven
draw in
nil
that
win.
game would be good for us. To be fair, um,
It'd be good for us, yeah.
they've got Newcastle, then they've got Chelsea, then they've got Bournemouth. So, in terms of results for us, Newcastle and Chelsea draws, fine. Bournemouth, you'll imagine they'll probably scrape a win, and then I think we play them around Christmas time. So maybe they could just hold off with a few average results until we play them, and then we'll show them what's what.
I really hope we do show them what's more because I'm just getting annoyed that they just when teams do this and they're just incredibly poorly run for the standard of side they are, and they're not punished in due course. It just really pisses me off because it gives you that kind of idea in the back of your head if you're like an Everton or if you're a Sheffield United or whatever or Luton that maybe we could break a couple rules and just you know do
Yeah,
do things perhaps with very short term goals in mind and just manage to scrape by somehow still. And I don't like it.
yeah. No, it's frustrating. I mean, Onana played really well. To be fair, against Everton, I think people were criticising him a bit at the start of the season, but he's
Yeah,
definitely coming into his own. That's the thing with United is that while like they're that kind of team where they've been established around the top end of the table for so long that they've just got some really really good quality players, even though they're missing in certain areas. And them as a squad, you look at it and you think there's definite gaps there. They've just got some really quality players in key positions, which kind of puts you on the good end of results sometimes when you don't
yeah.
really
If you can
deserve
put
it.
a basic tactic and style of play together, it doesn't even have to be an effective one. Your effective players can help you win games. Like
Yeah,
Onana's saved 1.73 xG on target this game. So it's
yeah,
effectively two goals he saved them.
yeah,
And then
yeah,
you look at
crazy.
the fact that United only should have really scored two. Um,
Yeah, and they had the penalty as well, which
you
skews
know,
things a little bit as well.
yeah,
Because
it,
yeah,
it was a game Everton really should have been winning, and the fact they haven't. Well, it
yeah,
doesn't
frustrating
necessarily
for
say
them.
much about this season because they've picked up
No,
enough points already that you think they could probably get out. But
no.
it does make you think, like, how is that going to affect him going forward?
Yeah, I don't know. It goes either one or two ways, isn't it? Like you either lose your head over a little bit, or you think we should have won that game. On another day, we could have won that game. It was Man United. They've got good players. Like they could quite easily be buoyed by it. To be honest, the only thing with them is do they lose a bit of confidence in their ability to score goals? Because that was their problem at the start of the season, was that they were playing well, but they weren't scoring, and that can get in your head.
Yeah,
Um,
they just can't
but
let
I
their
think,
heads drop
right,
essentially.
yeah, I think they'll be all right. Like I think Dyche is a good manager for managing managing the kind of mental side of the game, and yeah, I think they'll still be all right.
Moving on,
Um,
we'll skip over the
yeah,
Villa game for another minute or so. Fulham versus Wolves. Won't talk about this one too much.
no, I
Fulham.
didn't bloody watch the game.
I only saw the highlights. I don't believe Fulham deserved as much as they got.
I mean, what did they have like two or three penalties or some
Two
shit? Two
penalties,
penalties.
which I think accounts for like 1.5 XG. So you take that off. I
Yeah,
think generally you're looking at a pretty even game.
yeah. One of
Um,
the penalties was pretty bad as well.
yeah, I
Poor
remember
decision.
watching the highlights. One of the penalties, he barely touches him, if at all. Well, in fact, that's the case for both of the penalties. Really, they barely touch them both times. I think with the first one, mostly gets the ball and then follows through with a bit of a touch on the defender, but not much. And then the second one, he's stuck a leg out, but then kind of moved out the way, and the players just kind of thrown themselves to the ground. It's another one that I think in real time, without VAR, majority of the time, neither of those will probably get given. Um, it's just, yeah, it's tough. I think with the fact that VAR was involved and didn't disallow either of those or deny either of those as a penalty
Yeah.
decision, I think that's what's frustrated Gary O'Neill because he's come out and basically said, I trusted VAR before today and now I don't.
Well,
Um,
they've had a succession of poor decisions from VAR
yeah,
in several games this season as well, so it's kind of an accumulation. So yeah, Wolves maybe a bit unlucky. They still created a fair amount. I mean, they had a penalty as well, to be fair, which does skew their XG.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think when we both went for a Wolves win, probably potentially underestimated Fulham a little bit. I think they're an easy team to underestimate because you look at their squad on paper and there's some gaps and you think where are the goals
Yeah.
going to come from. They're actually very well coached. I think regardless of the quality of their player in certain areas, they're one of those teams where they've got a really good manager and they've got a solid setup that's quite settled. So
Yeah. I suppose
um,
if you go in there underestimating them in any way, that's when you kind of run the risk of getting a little surprise.
yeah, yeah, like they are capable, especially against Wolves, who are probably a team of a similar kind of standard. Um, yeah, probably just underestimated them a little bit, really, based on the fact that we just beat them quite comfortably, something
Yeah.
like that. No, but yeah, just
Huang
a way
generally looks pretty.
penalties in the game.
Yeah, Huang generally looks pretty dangerous even without his penalty. Um, Bellegarde showed some skill to create that one for Mateus
Yeah,
Cunha. So
seems to be quite a decent player.
yeah, like I think as we said, Wolves their squad, while it's not as good as it was before, there's still enough in there to produce a decent season for Wolves.
Yeah,
And yeah, I was surprised not to see them get more out of this game, and I think going forward we will see them hopefully pick up as long as Gary O'Neill doesn't
yeah. I
implode over
mean,
VAR.
you put you put Dawson back in their defence, and you put
Mm.
Neto up front with Huang. That's a pretty dangerous team, even on paper. Like
Yeah,
there's sort of fairly few obvious weak spots, and there's some very very good players in there as well. Like yeah, um,
absolutely. So
yeah.
yeah, was that what? What did you predict for that one?
I went 2-0 Wolves,
Okay, yeah, so no
and
points either
you
way for
went
us.
2-1. So yeah,
All right, so let's go to the game where we both got points
the big fixture.
and we both just had a great weekend.
God, it was maybe like the least fun I've ever had watching a football game because I was so nervous.
It
Like,
was, yeah, you were on edge because it was just constant balls over the
oh,
top,
the
and you were just
fucking
like,
offsides. It was like,
yeah,
oh my God. Spurs were frantic. Like they came at us in the first half, and yeah, they created loads of chances, but they were always offside. And then, well, we said it at half time, didn't we? We said Emery will have a plan. He's been here before. He knows what he's doing, and maybe his best attribute as a manager is his adaptability and his flexibility and his in-game management. And that's basically what won us the game because the game flipped on its head at half time with a
yeah.
few changes from us. Um, and yeah,
It's hard to say really when you look at a game like this who deserves what, because on the one hand you've got dominance from in possession from Tottenham. They outscored us on the XG charts. They took more shots. They got more shots on target. So at surface level, you look at that and you probably say Spurs deserve to win the game. But then what you've got to think about is how much of that XG, if I don't even know if it works necessarily like this, but is if say a goal's disallowed, will that chance be taken into account for XG?
no, that's
Okay,
zero.
okay, good.
Yeah,
So so even when you
so that
consider
actually is
everything,
representative of actual chances that they could
yeah.
have scored.
So you probably would say they should have won the game. Emi Martinez had an incredible
Yeah,
game, uh, stopping multiple one-on-ones, stopping a number of shots. So yeah, ultimately, I think you have to say we probably got a little bit lucky here.
I think we did. Yeah, I think, but then I think it's Tottenham away. I think we were probably just about underdogs for most people.
Yeah,
We were probably Tottenham were probably favourites just being at home and how good they've been this season. So I think it's not we came away with a win, which is probably a bit lucky. But at the same time, you wouldn't expect us to blow away Tottenham away from home. It's always going to be a tight game. I was going
yeah,
into the game, I was nervous and I was thinking we could quite easily lose this game. I'd be happy with a draw going into it, honestly. Um, but so yeah, I think on balance you would say we got a bit lucky, but then at the same time, um, we kind of executed our game plan pretty well. I think
Yeah,
we
yeah,
maybe would have liked for them to have a little less control, but that's just how Tottenham play. You know, they're incredibly good, especially in the first half of games, at just coming out the blocks at a million miles an hour and kind of blowing you away and not giving you any space in the game. They did it really well, but we hung on, and our offside trap was immense.
yeah.
Um, Stopped so many chances for them. Like they had 3 or 4 disallowed goals. And then the thing that won us the game was that Tottenham's intensity dropped off because you can't keep that kind of press up for 90 minutes. And we made a couple of changes. And as their intensity dropped off, they started creating less and less, and we started finding a little bit more space.
Mm,
And so while maybe on balance, Tottenham possibly deserved more from the game, um, we had a game plan and we executed it well. And you know, Emery would have known that there would have been a drop off in intensity from Tottenham, and he used that very, very well.
yeah. I think we did succumb a little bit to that mentality of letting in the first half, letting the game settle and just sort of getting through the first half. Perhaps if we'd have switched to that four at the back system a little earlier on and brought a fourth into midfield uh, from perhaps you know towards the start of the game. I don't know if he doesn't normally like to make changes that early, so I kind of get that he didn't. But
Yeah,
if he did, perhaps we would have just seen a more balanced game on the whole overall. I think because we played with that five at the back, um, and because it was so provided so much width, that meant that the players we did have in midfield and attack had to compact even more in order to block up the space in the midfield, which meant that their back three, back four, depending on how you viewed it in possession, did have so much more time to play the passes and looked so much more comfortable.
yeah, we never really threatened in the first half. Like you'd
Yeah,
expect going into the game, I think most people were expecting it to be pretty end to end because Watkins would play on the shoulder of their high line. But yeah, maybe the way we set up was a little bit conservative, and it really penned us in. Watkins couldn't even run in channels. We were that pegged back.
yeah, and maybe that's part of Emery's thinking. He just was like, well, we've previously gone away from home and conceded very early on. Let's try and hold that off. But at the
Yeah,
same time, it did just happen again, and we only got back level right at the end of the half. When they're playing a back four of a doggy, Porro, Royale, Davies, like you got to think, surely we can impose ourselves on that back line. Because yes, the full
yeah,
backs are there, but you're playing a right back and a left back at centre back. That's not their normal positions. That's not normally where they situate themselves on the pitch. And yeah, there may be other places in the squad where there's apparent weaknesses with Lo Celso and Bentancur, who are two players who've not really played a lot, starting next to each other. But what you do have there is a team full of guys that can work with the ball at their feet. So really, what you want to do is break them out of their structure, and we instead played a way that allowed them to keep whatever structure they wanted and attack us pretty
yeah,
much at will in that first half. Which is the only thing I'd say in terms of what we probably could have done better and would have, had we changed things earlier and things possibly played out a little bit more in a balanced way throughout the game, I would have said we would have deserved that win a little bit more. I still think we generally do deserve it just for on the day, you still have to put the ball in the back of the net, and we were away. Generally, away, you're going to play worse. Every team's good at home to an extent, so you're always going to be somewhat, worse when you're travelling away, and you just got to
yeah,
just find a way to get the goals. So I still think on that in that sense we deserve to win because we still put the ball in the back of the net and
yeah.
defended the
Well, we got
lead.
the result, didn't we?
So yeah,
People do say that like the you always deserve the result in football, which is like not always true, but at the same time, it was one of those games where you look at the stats in a kind of black and white sense, and they don't really represent what happened in the game. Um, because it doesn't represent Tottenham's kind of drop off in intensity in the second half and stuff like that. But yeah, we definitely could have um, controlled the first half better. I mean, the first half was fucking nervy. Like
Yeah.
we were on. Um,
Well, it
but I
kind
don't know.
of it's kind of part of the narrative of like what makes a really good Premier League side is being a ball dominant possession based team that likes to attack for most of the game. You see it with City, Chelsea, Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, Brighton. All these teams want to keep the ball and they want to create a high volume of attacking opportunities, especially early on in games and throughout games. And part of how they do that is playing with intensity and pressing. Obviously, Unai doesn't necessarily like to play that way, but it does make you question: is that just the best way of playing, which we are either not at yet, or we, but whether because of individual quality or because of the coaching quality or whatever, is that a level that is just the best way to play in this league, which we just need to get better at doing, or get better at playing against in order to progress up the league for the long term, or is that just a popularity thing? Is it just the most popular way of playing? Because when you in
Yeah,
that
it's an
first
interesting
half,
one.
it was you did watch Spurs just pinging the ball about constantly, just sort of getting through at will, and you start to think, well, are we supposed to be at this level? Because at the moment we can't do shit to stop
Yeah, that
them.
first half,
You
it
know?
looked like there was a clear top four side there, and there was a clear sort of like worst quality team there. Yeah, it's a difficult one because then I suppose that is the recent narrative of the Premier League. But then you've had, you know, I mean, you're going back quite a while now. The thing is, Pep has basically changed the kind of narrative in the league so heavily because
Yeah,
no one else can even compete with that level, no matter what style of play you go with. But before the kind of Guardiola Man City era, you had Conte won the Premier League with Chelsea with a kind of counter-attacking kind of style. Um, like before the kind of dominance of the Pep era, you did have different styles. So
yeah.
I don't know whether the narrative has just been swayed by Pep Guardiola teams, and whether there are other styles out there that are capable of winning things. They're just not on show in the Premier League because nobody can beat a fucking Man City team
One
at the
thing I would
moment.
say is you probably want to switch your lamp on.
Oh yeah,
You are in the pitch black. Hey, there we go. Can
right.
see him. I don't know how long you've been blacked out there for, but there you go. Well, there is one thing I want to say about this game, and that is Matty Cash. While perhaps by the letter of the law he didn't deserve a red, I wanted to give him a red because I felt like that had to be at least partly intentional. Like the way he just was nowhere near the ball, lifted his leg up and went into the side of Bentancour's leg there, and it had to be Bentancur and it had to be his bad leg. There was just something in me I couldn't escape it where I was like, I feel like Matty's done a really bad thing here.
Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one. I think I don't think he was intentionally trying to re-injure Bentancur. Like I don't think he's. I find it hard to believe that he's going into that tackle thinking Bentancur's just come back from a leg injury. I'm gonna tackle him around his knee right now.
Mm,
I find it hard to believe he's gone in with that. It was a bad tackle for sure. It was a yellow card, not a red. I think. It's the kind of tackle you see every week in the Premier League. It's like one of those where he's gone in a bit hard. He's nowhere near the ball, but his foot was quite low. Yeah, it was a bad one. It was a bit of a it was a naughty tackle. It was not a nice tackle, but I don't think it was a red card. And I think if it wasn't Bentancur, it was any other player on the pitch, there wouldn't really be much of a conversation about it. It would just be that was a bad tackle, that was a yellow card. That would be the end of it. It was just the
yeah,
fact that it was Bentancur that obviously that that creates that kind of thing in your head of being like, has he intentionally gone out and injured a player who's just come back from a significant injury? But I find that hard to believe. I think it was just unfortunate because like the thing is, tackles like that happen every week, and players don't get injured. I mean, Spurs have one of the worst disciplinary records in the league, and they've got Romero in their team, who's one of the dirtier players in the league. Um, players in the Premier League, you always get players who are more aggressive. You get teams who are more aggressive. Um, Tackles like that do happen every week, and players don't get injured every week. I think this is just a case of bad luck, really, in terms of
Yeah.
Bentancur getting injured.
I mean, I think that's fair enough. If you say in
It,
terms of like what
it was a bad tackle.
you find it hard to believe. I don't want to believe, and I don't currently believe that Matt Cash is the kind of guy who would do that. It just in my live reaction to that, where I saw Cash's foot go, where I saw his eyes looking coming into that tackle, I was just like, if I was trying to win the ball there, I don't think I'd be looking where he's looking and putting my foot where he's footing,
No, I don't think
where
he.
he's putting his foot.
I don't think he was. Well, I don't think he was trying to win the ball, or I think at least he'd gone into the tackle, and at some point had realised he's not going to get the ball. You can either pull out at that point, or you can leave something on your man.
Mm.
And he's definitely gone in there with the intent to leave something on him. But I don't think it was intent to injure him, and I don't think it was anything to do with the fact that it was Bentancur. I mean, if the referee believed there was intent to injure him, then that is a red card.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was a red card. So, but yeah, it was not a good one. Anyway,
All right.
it was.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Cash, you let off for now, but I'll be back round your house
I mean, more concerning from a
if
Villa point
you.
of view, I think, is the fact that Cash had a shit game.
Yeah, he didn't have the greatest game. I think that was partly because he didn't have McGinn in front of him as he normally
Yeah, it was a bit
probably
of a
would.
different role for him. So
Yeah, like he normally when he's got that position out on the right, he's got at least one player in front of him. When he was out on the right in this game, he only really had players to the side of him. When it came to being faced up with a winger and a fullback, he had an inverted fullback and a doggy of very good quality who could probably outdo him for pace. And then he had Brian Hill, who often liked coming inside, very technical, very quick. It just gave him no real understanding of exactly where it should be because you've got two wide players coming inside a lot to do their work, and you've got no one in front of him, and the guy behind you is supposed to be playing centre back. So you kind of in this strange position for him there, where the players that would have typically be charging down his wing and trying to take him on are going inside. He's even more out wide than he typically is in a 4-4-2 because of the other players inside of him. He's pushed
yeah,
further forward as well and with no support. So you've got a bunch of different things that are changed here from a usual scenario where he's defending at right back.
yeah,
I think, it was just set up for him to fail, really. No, I'm not saying that
yeah.
he's been, I don't know, like sabotaged by Emery or or anything like that.
No, I
Just,
mean, he's kind of was just a victim of us having a bad first half. Really, there's not many
yeah,
players, especially particularly sort of attacking players, who you would say had a good game like we did. We just didn't really have much, and that goes for Cash as well. And then add that on top of him being a bit sloppy in possession and making some bad tackles. Just had a bad game. But yeah, the system wasn't really set up for him to succeed in that situation. So
absolutely. Right, shall we quickly go over next weekend's games because we've been
yeah,
going for a
whiz through
while?
some predictions.
Yeah. All right. So Arsenal Wolves. Arsenal at home. Wolves away. Wolves off the back of an away loss to Fulham, where they played fairly even level. Um, they generally haven't been that good away. Arsenal been very good at home, very defensively solid. They need to pick it up in attack though. So I'm going to go 2
Yeah, they've not
nil.
looked convincing.
I'm going to say 2 nil.
2
Arsenal.
0 Arsenal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to have a much of a different opinion, really. Wolves. You wouldn't expect Wolves to go there and get anything out of the game necessarily, but Arsenal haven't looked that convincing going forward. I think maybe I'll back Wolves to score.
Yeah, I
Maybe I'll
don't
go.
think they could.
Arsenal's defense is so strong; it's difficult. Um, I'll go 2-1 Arsenal.
Ooh, big, big calls. Right, Brentford at home to Luton. Luton's special place is home. I think they'd be quite happy to just go away, sit back, and hope. Um, which against Brentford is probably not the worst choice because Brentford don't want to necessarily hold tons of the ball.
True, yeah.
Um,
Just talked about it.
but against Luton, they might find some luck. They're very similar teams in terms of having very good, not well, I say very good, very sort of stylistically more kind of aerial defences, like in terms of how
Mm.
where their strengths lie, with having a big physical side. So they're going to try and get you to play balls into the box more often. Brentford really want to be getting in behind you to get Tony in on the goals. So I don't see Brentford scoring a ton. Um, Probably at most two, but I don't see Luton scoring many, if any. I think it's going to be between 1-0 Brentford and 2-1 Brentford, something like that.
Yeah, that's what I've got as well.
I think a 1-0 Brentford.
Um, you've gone 1-0.
Yeah.
I might go 2-0 Brentford. I
It's going to be a
think,
tight one, I think.
yeah, I don't think Luton have been very good defensively, and while Brentford do maybe struggle a little bit more when they haven't got as much space to run into, I back them to get a couple of goals. Just don't think Luton have been very good defensively and away from home. So,
Yeah.
okay,
Oh, now this is
Burnley,
interesting.
Sheffield United.
This is interesting
Yeah,
because we've got the two
yeah,
worst teams in the league, so stylistically different. Can one overcome the other? Burnley have started scoring. They can score at least one goal, so I'm not going to predict them not to score. That was my
yeah.
promise from earlier this episode. Sheffield United could score in this game. They could score.
They definitely could. I mean, Burnley do look really frail defensively. Um, I'm thinking a 2-1 Burnley or maybe a 2-all.
Do you know what, I'm gonna. I shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna back Burnley to score 3 goals.
No way.
Yeah, I'm going a bit off peak with this one.
What are you saying? 3-1, 3-0,
Yeah,
3-2?
no, I think 3-1 Burnley.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'm going to go 2-1 Burnley.
I just think this is finally time for them to show they can score goals against the team who they beat last season in the championship. So why not? Like
Fair.
if they've started to score the occasional goal, they're still playing pretty much the same way. Now they're faced with an
Yeah,
opponent that's actually on their sort of level.
yeah.
Show
Yeah,
us
to be
what you
fair,
got,
I mean, yeah, there's no reason they shouldn't go there and win comfortably, really. It's not like either of those teams have improved massively since the championship. And if this was a championship fixture last season, you'd expect Burnley to win comfortably. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Nottingham Forest against Everton. This is going to be 3-2 either way. Don't think you can argue that now.
no, keeps happening, doesn't it?
Forest love a 3-2. Um, are they going to win or lose though? That's the only thing. They can't lose twice in a row at home.
No.
So I think I just have to say 3-2 to Forest.
Shit. I'm going to go 2-2.
Ooh.
I think Forest and West. Was it Forest West Ham? No. Who did they play?
Well, we've had
Oh,
Brentford
Forest West
West
Ham was three
Ham.
two, wasn't it?
We've had Forest West Ham. We've had
Oh,
Brighton
Brighton.
Forest. They've all been
Yeah,
3-2s.
I think there being that many goals in Forest fixtures is potentially a bit of an anomaly. I do think these games tend to keep having goals when it's two teams stylistically similar, matching up, similar level teams. Do tend to get goals, but I think 2-2. I don't think they'll go the full three this time.
I have to back it. I have to. 3-2 Nottingham Forest. Um, yeah, not much more to be said about that. If you don't know already, you've got two defensive teams that like to counter attack. Um, Often when they play each other, it ends up being 3-2. So yeah, if you didn't know that, there you go. Now you do. Newcastle versus Manchester United. So I could bet
Mm.
on a Newcastle like 7-0 here, or I could bet on like a 1-1. Those are like my two options.
Oh god, it's a pretty tricky one. I
Um,
mean, by your logic of going with what's been happening until it stops happening, you should probably be backing Man United at this point to
well,
scrape a result.
yeah. Let's look at United's away results. Win, win, um, win, win.
Shit.
Yeah, so they're winning quite a lot, apart from when they lost to Arsenal, Tottenham, Bayern Munich. So when they play good teams away, they lose. When they play anyone else away, they win. Newcastle are a good team. Are
Yeah,
they better than Everton and Fulham? Yes. So
I'm thinking.
United probably not going to win this one,
No,
to be
Newcastle's
honest.
home form is very good. Um,
And yeah, as you say, Newcastle home form. I'm going to go for a bonus point, I think. I'm going to go for a bonus point, which means I either need to say that Newcastle win 4-1 or 5-0 or 3-2.
or 3-2.
I don't see 3-2.
No,
I don't see 4-1. I see 5-0.
5-0.
Yeah.
Shit. You should put money on that. You get so much money if they won 5-0. Yeah, it's a tough one. I don't see United not scoring. To be honest, they've got this wily way about them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm predicting stuff to happen that has been happening, you would say it, United nick a goal away. So you'd probably go 4-1. But I just think Newcastle are going to be absolutely roaring for this one. And I just see them blowing them away. And I think they deserve blowing
Yeah,
away, as I've said.
I think 3-1 Newcastle. I think they will. It'll be pretty comfortable, but uh, yeah, United will nick a goal somewhere.
Nick a goal
All
away, as they
right.
always bloody seem to do.
Uh,
Should we?
Bournemouth Villa. Should we
Oh, is
leave
that?
that till the end?
Well, we've got to get through these reasonably quickly anyway, don't we? So
Yeah.
let's just say, let's go through it. Bournemouth at home. I think they're going to try and impose themselves. I think they're going to want to play a certain way, kind of how they did against Newcastle. It's not going to be one of those where they change their game plan for us. I think they've got a manager in who really backs himself,
Yeah.
and kind of like Company is doing, sets up each game to play their way that they want to play, and perhaps they'll tweak things for the opposition, but largely they stick to the same principles. I think as Unai tends to be more of a tweaker, more of a tinker, and I mean we'll be coming into this one without Kamara. We should probably
Yep.
keep that in mind. So defensively, we might not be as solid in the midfield. We'll definitely be more creative though, because I'd imagine we'll bring in like a Tielemans. Zaniolo won't be starting this one. I don't think. I think after the amount of time that Bailey's been impressing, he'll be offered the chance to start potentially. Might even see Diaby drop out of this one. So I think there might be a few changes on the Villa side potentially. Um, I think we'll just play out a typical Aston Villa away win where the opposition probably offer up some danger, but we have a good game plan and play it out to perfection. So I can see a 2-1 win again or a 3-1 win on Villa's side, I think.
I'm going to go 3-1. I think the Bournemouth are, yeah, they're not quite settled yet. They've had a couple of results, but they're still pretty fragile defensively. Uh, while they had that good result against Newcastle, but it's not really enough for a trend to suggest that their home form is particularly strong. Um, and I think we'll impose ourselves relatively well. I think Bournemouth will give us a good challenge. They'll play with an intensity that will give us something to think about. But I think we'll be able to control the ball relatively comfortably.
Yeah,
They'll probably have periods. I back them to probably get a goal just because we've just not been keeping clean sheets, and they've got some threat in attack for sure. But I think we'll be able to beat their press pretty well. We'll be able to transition into some good attacks pretty consistently. So I back us to get a few goals. So yeah,
Yeah, I mean, if you say 3-1, I'll probably go 2-1 just because that was my initial thought. I think they're probably better on the pitch than they are on paper, and I think we're probably similarly so, better on the pitch than we are on paper.
probably yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, 2-1. Let's move on. Chelsea versus Brighton.
Yeah,
Interesting.
God, fuck this, fuck this.
Interesting, this, isn't it?
Both these teams are just mental, aren't they? Like Brighton keep kind of playing well, but then not getting results, and then they just got a good result against Forest, which nobody seems to do at Forest. Dunk got sent off, so they're going to be missing Dunk, which is pretty key for them. Chelsea, all over the place. Could be good, could be shit.
Yeah, so Chelsea have beat Brighton already at Stamford Bridge 1-0 this season.
What?
So,
In the cup?
yeah.
Oh, shit.
The fact that Arsenal I think they'd beat Brentford 1-0 in the cup. Uh, yeah, they beat Brentford 1-0 in the exact same fixture.
Mm.
So
Mm.
it's making me think I just say Chelsea 1-0. But then again, this is the Premier League, so I don't know.
This is a fun game, actually. I might have to
Yeah,
watch this one.
it is. It is. It really is. You
I'm
got
seeing a lot of goals. I'm thinking like a 4-2 or a 5-2 or some shit.
There could be a lot of goals. Could be a lot of goals. There's a reason that you'd think there would be a lot of goals. So
It could be one of them where they stifle each other, though, couldn't it?
yeah, that's the other thing I'm thinking. Um, I think Chelsea will score at least two at home against a possession-based side, and I don't back Brighton to score more than one or two, if two. This game's in 5 days. Do we think Brighton are going to significantly change in 5 days? No, probably not. Therefore, I predict Chelsea 2-1.
All right. I'm going to go. I might have to go 3-1 Chelsea. Maybe 4-2 is a bit mad. Chelsea are a bit mad, though. So Brighton.
They're better at home, as everyone is.
I'm just gonna fucking go 4-2. Got a bonus point in there.
Yeah, it's a hard game to call because on the one
It
hand you can
is.
say, well, Chelsea have not been consistent at all and could just implode, and therefore you could easily get away with being like, oh, Brighton 3-0.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, you can say, well, they've produced some decent results at home against big sides, especially possession-based sides, so probably expect them to score a couple.
What did you went 2-1 Chelsea?
Yeah, I've gone 2-1 Chelsea. I think we're going to end up somewhere in the middle where both teams
Probably, yeah.
will probably play a little bit better defensively than they have done recently, and will probably not be as free scoring in the same kind of vein of thought. I think. But anyway, yes. Let's move on. You thought you went 4-2, did you? Yeah.
4-2 Chelsea, yeah.
Liverpool versus Fulham. Well, I think you got to go at least 3-0.
Yeah, that's my initial thought. Do I see anything else happening?
I'm going to go
Are we
4-1
underestimating
Liverpool.
Fulham again? I seem to just never give Fulham a chance, whatever game.
I'm not giving them a chance. I'm saying 4-1 Liverpool. Liverpool, sorry, Fulham. We raised the correct concerns before. Like reasonable overall squad, good coach, but a few key areas where there's no quality, particularly up front. And they got quite lucky against Wolves to get those two penalties. Away at Anfield's a different beast.
Yeah, hard to look past that. I'll go 3-0 Liverpool. You've gone 4-1. Yeah, not much more to be said about that one.
Yeah, got to go for that bonus
Um,
point. I've gone for two
yeah,
bonus points so far. No, three. I've gone for three.
yeah.
Can you imagine if they come in? It'd be the highest scoring week ever.
Yeah, that'd be mad.
Um,
um, Palace, West Ham Palace. Sorry,
West
West Ham.
Ham, Crystal Palace. Oh, This reminds me of Crystal Palace Everton. I think we're going to see another high scorer here.
Shit. Depends on it. Does depend on Bowen a little bit again because West Ham look a little bit blunt without him, but they're at home. Home form is significantly better than their away
The
form.
way I saw the Bowen situation was I thought he was going to be back the weekend just gone because no one was really talking about how long he was going to be out for. They all the word on it was just like, oh, well, he came back early, and we're going to see if he's ready for the game. Like they never really gave an indication on, well, did he train yesterday? Like, did he train? Therefore, like, have you tested him? They never really said much. So I thought they were kind of going along the lines of, we're not going to say much because we reckon we can get him ready, but we don't want to, set too many expectations. Slash, if he is ready, we don't want the opponent to be prepared for that sort of situation. We want them to be thinking
Mm.
he's not playing. This could all be just be what I'm making up in my head, but that just made me think he was not far off, and so I think
Yeah, I
he'll be
did. I
ready.
think that usually managers say when it's significant injury.
Yeah,
Um, Moyes was very vague about it. The fact that he wasn't in the squad at all, like not even on the bench, suggests that possibly he could be not out again, or maybe it was touch and go, and he didn't train as well as they expected, or something like that. But usually managers say if it's like several weeks out, they
mm.
usually say. Yeah, I think we can probably expect Bowen to be back. Palace Decore has just got injured for them. No,
Yeah. So the battle's going to be won and lost in the midfield. So Palace aren't really going to be able to hold possession. If Eze's out, they're going to lack that attacking sting. So you're going to be relying on Elise
yeah,
and Edouard. But I think when you've got a team coming to you in that way, that kind of look like a bit of a limp fish compared to what they normally are, you kind of have to be optimistic. But the problem is, if you get optimistic, then the opposition can score a couple goals against you. So, West Ham, they've won a lot recently, which is good. They're in good form. What do you think? I'm probably edging towards a 3-2 West Ham victory.
yeah. I'm thinking a 2-1 West Ham, maybe a 3-1. I do. I don't know. Like, I don't think West Ham are that strong. I think they're one of those teams where anyone would probably back themselves to show up against them and get something out of the game. Um, so I think Palace have got a chance here for sure. They'll probably back themselves to go there and get goals. It's just whether they can keep West Ham out. Really, West Ham have just got that set piece threat. They've got they're a better team in general. Just about they're in better form. They're at home. You'd expect them to have more about them. So I think I'll go for a narrow West Ham victory.
Yeah,
Um,
I've got the West Ham victory on the cards. I don't think it's going to be a huge one, but if I'm going to say that West Ham win at home and they're playing another side about their level in the Premier League, who don't play too dissimilarly, I just have to go for another bonus point. Like 3-2 West Ham is my prediction. Like you
right.
put enough bonus point wins out there in games where you think that could be likely to come off,
Yeah, it's probably a good strategy.
you might get a
Um,
couple.
yeah, I'm going to go 2-1. But depending on how this week goes, if you get a shitload of bonus points this week, I'm going to copy the strategy. I'm just going to go for the bonus point. It's like a cheat
Yeah.
code. Right, City Spurs. Another bonus point. What are you saying?
Uh, no bonus points
Oh,
here. No
really?
bonus points here. Um, you probably look at this and say you expect something similar to what happened against Liverpool, except that Tottenham's squad's just far more depleted and not as good as originally as Liverpool's. Um, so if you would say you'd expect City to win 2-1 in that previous game, you'd probably add at least another goal or two to this one, just based off that. So I think a 3-1's a pretty good scoreline to go for.
Fair play. I'm thinking. I'm thinking 4-1 City.
Ooh, going for that bonus point.
Yeah, I think Spurs just Spurs.
Thirth,
Spurs. Spurs
thirth, thirth.
have got that. They play one way. They attack, and
Can you say Spurs
and
for me?
Spurs. Um,
There we go.
yeah, they they attack no matter what, and they'll come at City and they'll try and press City and they'll leave gaps in behind. And I think City, you've got to back City to exploit that and get some goals. Plus, even if Spurs don't manage to get a foothold in the game and City dominate possession, balls coming into the box against Royale and Davis. I mean,
With Haaland there. Well, they'll have
yeah,
Romero back,
it's
won't
not
they?
good. No,
Oh, is it three?
Romero's got another game out.
Three matches. Well, okay,
Yeah,
fair enough.
I think yeah, 4-1 or maybe 4-2. I could see Spurs getting a couple goals. They do attack well. They are dangerous, and if
Yeah,
there's any space in behind City, Son is going to exploit that.
Poch
So
has
maybe
generally been decent against City as well.
yeah, there they have. Yeah, they tend to get a result there for some reason. I don't know. 4-1 seems more realistic to me. I kind of hope it's 4-2. It's more fun,
They
but
they beat them 4-2 in their last game at the Etihad.
well,
Um, that was under Conte, right? Yeah, that was under Conte.
hmm, there's these two Spurs goals.
With Kane and Son starting.
Uh,
I'm sticking to
No, I
3-1.
think I'll go 4-1. I think City are pretty solid defensively, and they've got a lot of pace and power in their back line. So I'd back their defenders to handle that kind of one-on-one counter-attacking threat that spawn. Fucking hell, I can't talk. Spurs, that Spurs and Son. They've got some threat.
I'm not going to forget
City's
this.
City's centre backs are powerful and pacey, so they'll do it.
City's what? City's.
City's centre backs. City's spender backs.
All right, so Matt has a lisp. That's what we have discovered today. And you're predicting a 4-1 win for
Four
Manchester
one,
City.
yeah, yeah,
All right, okay. Yeah, we finally got through all of that. Um, we're an hour and 40 in, but I'm going to cut some of this out.
yeah.
Um,
We need to figure out a way of trimming them down a bit.
yeah. How do you feel about looking at um, fantasy this week? Any interesting things to note?
Well, I played my wild card
Yeah.
in the past week. I was pretty happy with my wild card team. I had a kind of a shit week, but I feel like a lot of people did
Yeah, it
because
wasn't. It wasn't a great week for a lot of people.
it was like, I mean, it's reflected in like our predictions and stuff. There were just quite a few unpredictable results and stuff.
Who
But I
should we
wasn't.
talk about? Who we captain this week, perhaps?
Yeah, so I'm looking at it now. I think I've got better fixtures this week. To be fair,
I think you have to
um,
go with Salah captain. I don't think it makes
yeah,
any sense to do anything other in any other way.
no, Salah's the standout. I think if you wanted to go for something not, a bit differential, something a bit out there, I think Mbuemo could be a shout. I don't know if you got Mbuemo.
No, I don't have Mbeumo. That would be a decent way of going about it. I just don't know if that's going to be a high scoring game.
Yeah, it's hard to predict how
Bowen, if
how
he's
Brentford will
back,
score with
could be another
Mbuemo.
one. Um,
Yeah, Saka against Wolves.
Trippier against United could be a decent captain.
That would be an interesting one. Yeah,
But yeah, I think it's hard to go away from just captaining Salah and vice captaining Haaland if you have them both.
yeah.
Just
Salah's the obvious one. I've got
yeah,
Watkins vice currently.
yeah. Watkins is there. The only thing it's an away game, so typically, obviously, not going
Yeah,
to be scoring as many goals. Um, whereas both Spurs and Fulham are away at Liverpool and Tottenham and City, so you just have to assume that being home games, they will win and it will be a reasonably decent scoreline,
yeah. It's
especially
always
Liverpool.
safer.
And I mean, even in that 4-4 game, Haaland got a shit ton of points, didn't he? So even when it is a difficult opposition where you think, oh, maybe the scoreline won't be as big, like it still can be just as big. The Premier League has shown. So
Yeah,
I wouldn't be afraid of putting Haaland in there as well. Um, But I mean, everyone's going to be expecting that, really, aren't they? So probably not going to be too crazy of a fluctuation in scores this week. I think a lot of people are going to get
Probably not.
similar captains.
Um, yeah, similar captains. I think most sort of teams, big teams that players that people have a lot of players from have got decent fixtures.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Should,
think
should
that
we uh, should we have a quick look as well at what the Premier League table will be if our predictions come true?
that's a good chat.
So started off with an Arsenal win, so that would keep them top. If a City win, that'll keep them in second. Liverpool win keeps them in third. We win keeps us in fourth. If Tottenham lose and United lose and Newcastle win, looks like Newcastle will go to fifth. Spurs will drop to sixth. Man United to seventh. If Brighton lose and West Ham win, that will take West Ham up into eighth. God, this is it's difficult trying to keep track of it all.
I've put it into a table now, so I've got it.
Okay, if Chelsea
Um,
win against Brighton, which we've suggested,
so
yeah,
Chelsea stay 10th.
West Ham. No, West
Um,
Ham. Yeah, Chelsea would still be in tenth. Sorry, yeah. Brentford we predict to win, so they'll still be behind Chelsea in 11th. Wolves we predict to lose. Palace we predict to lose. Fulham we predict to lose. Forest we predict to
you went
win,
for a Forest win. I went for a draw.
which would put them into 11th place, Forest, if they get that win.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the only really super congested part of the table, but then it's also quite an inconsequential part of the table because the bottom three are kind of a bit adrift. Um,
Yeah, and then so
and there's
Bournemouth we predict them to lose, so they'll stay the same. Luton predict to lose, so they'll stay the same. Sheffield Wednesday to lose, they'll stay the same. Everton to lose, they'll stay the same. Burnley to win, they'll go up to 18th on
were they?
7 points. Yeah, because if they beat Sheffield
Yeah.
United, Sheffield United stay on 5 points, and if Everton don't beat Forest, which I've got predicted, and Forest win, then they'd also leapfrog Everton.
Oh right, yeah. Um,
So
yeah, it doesn't change anything massively in the table. I mean, the
yeah,
thing with the top of the table is that if we manage to get a win against Bournemouth and Tottenham do lose to City, that gives us a bit of a buffer to Tottenham, which is nice.
yeah. The only thing is Newcastle. If we expect them to win, then they'd
Yeah.
still be
Well, they
well, they'd
come
be level
within.
with Tottenham then.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so if we can keep winning, then we can build up that 5 point gap and make the top four really seem like a top four.
yeah, that's the key thing. I think we just need to make sure we can maintain a gap to those teams. Really, it's kind of tough because they're good teams like Newcastle and Tottenham. If they've got a fixture with any team and below them in the table, really, you're probably backing them. Um,
Yeah,
so we've really got to be on our toes and make sure we get those away points.
yeah.
You
We've
always
got
back
to.
at home. I kind of think in a couple of weeks' time we play Arsenal and City at home. You're kind of
Mm,
backing us maybe get a point or three in maybe one or both of those games, just because our home form is so solid. Um,
yeah,
but we've really got to make sure we consolidate those home points with away victories. Like if we lose to fucking Bournemouth this weekend, it just kind of makes the whole amazing Spurs result all a bit pointless, really. If we can't
a
get
little
that,
bit. I mean, we could still keep Spurs at arm's length behind us. And as I say, if Newcastle beat Man United, they still would be, even if we lose, they're still 2 points behind us. So we still have a gap. Yeah, if we win and the rest of the top four win, as we've kind of predicted, that'll be us and Liverpool on 31, City on 32, and Arsenal on 33. And then everyone following behind, if everything happens as we predicted, the next best following teams would then be on 26 points. It would start to really look in the table as if you've got a top four and your following pack, and that would be quite nice to see, at least for our belief of like
yeah. I
what's
mean,
it like to be a
it's
top
kind
four
of too
team.
early to even look into that too much. Even if we built up a nice gap of like 6, 7 points, you'd still think that can change on a
Oh
little
yeah,
bit of run of form or whatever. And we have still got to play City and Arsenal. albeit at home. Um,
Yeah, just be nice
yeah,
visually.
yeah, no, it is nice, and it allows us to have, if we lose it to City at home, which you probably would expect us to do, it means that we're not too badly affected as long as we can go out and beat the teams a bit lower down in the table. Like, it gives you that buffer to lose against the teams that are definitely kind of better than you. Yeah, we got to get through Bournemouth first, haven't we?
Yep, indeed we do. So yeah, we'll probably round it off there. And yeah, how have you enjoyed that, Matt? Has it been a good Premier League show today?
Time of my life.
Yeah, I think we do need to find a way of speeding these up because we go.
Yeah, like it was good. Like I think the format is good,
Yeah,
um,
we
and
just
generally the good and stuff. It's just like we kind of linger on points for a bit too long.
yeah, but we'll,
Uh,
we'll we'll figure that out, won't we? I mean,
yeah,
I don't know if there's anyone watching that's actually been through all of the lingering at this point in the video, but I mean, I mean, I'll definitely edit a couple parts out. And if you are still here, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Um, because we're going to keep coming out with content. We're going to try and make it better and better. So, yeah, why not? Um, bye. I think, yeah, fucking bye.
bye. I think
Yeah, bye. That's it.
bye. I suppose.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe we'll stick around for
Uh,
another minute. Silence,
really,
just staring
no,
into
that'd
the
be exciting
camera.
content. Just think about what you've done.
Think about what you've done.
Reflect on what you've just said.
All right, now I'll stop it there.